Okay, so looking at our homework for tonight, you're looking at situations and determining what does the slope mean and what does the y-intercept mean. You have to interpret based on the situation to say what those numbers mean. Now, the equation is actually given to you. So you're not having to create the equation, you're just interpreting. So if we look at the first one, Mike has a saltwater fish tank, and that tank is being emptied. The amount of the water in the tank, okay, that's W. So this is how much water is in the tank. And then T is going to represent the number of minutes. And so when we look at what's happening, we need to find out first the slope. Well, we know in this equation that M equals -2. Well, what are we talking about? The water in the tank is measured in gallons. So our M is -2 gallons. So what does that mean? That means that the tank, it is being emptied by 2 gallons each minute. Now, our slope, it's a negative. I don't have to put a negative on my 2 in my explanation because when I talk about emptying, that's showing going down, which represents a negative. Now, what does the y-intercept represent? So that y-intercept, that's how much was in the tank at the beginning. Okay, so that's how much was started with. So our B equals 55. So what does that 55 mean? That means that the tank started with 55 gallons. Okay, looking at number 2. You broke a lamp at JCPenney while shopping with your mother. You must pay her back with your weekly allowance. So you're paying her back with your weekly allowance. The amount that you owe your mother for the lamp is D. Okay, so this is the amount that you owe at any time. And then W, that's the number of weeks. And so looking at our equation, okay, which is given to us, you have to interpret what does the slope represent and what does the y-intercept represent. Well, we know that the M is -5. So having to pay her back your allowance each week. So that means that each week you pay Mom $5. Now, again, we have a negative in our slope. Because we're paying it, that's showing that it is a negative. Now, our B, in this case, B equals 60. Well, that 60 is what you started with. So, you started with $60. Okay. Now looking at number 3, you have a gym membership. That gym membership includes a sign-up fee when you first register, and then there are monthly payments. So we have the total cost C for gym membership. We have our equation C equals 35M plus 75. So you have to interpret what is the slope. What does that represent? Well, we know, I'm thinking about C and writing down the wrong thing. Our M equals 35. Now you're going to think about what does that mean is happening each and every month for that equation. Okay, now when I'm talking M, right now that's confusing because that equation has M. Really, we're talking slope. Okay, the slope, what does that mean? And then looking at our B, our y-intercept. Okay, B equals 75. What does that mean in that equation? Now looking at number 4, Matthew's been saving money every month. Okay, so the total amount of his savings is S, and we have our equation. So number 4, slope. Okay, so if our slope equals 25, what does that mean? Well, that means that every month Matthew is saving $25. So we're going to explain that. Matthew saves $25 every month. Okay, now our B, what does our y-intercept mean? Well, the B is 100. That means Matthew started with $100. Looking at number 6. So a guest at a hotel makes a long-distance phone call. He's going to be charged a fee, so that's something he's paying for making the phone call in addition to being charged for every minute. So when we look at our equation, okay, be careful here because it's not written in y equals mx plus b. If I rewrite this equation, b equals 0.25 m plus $2, that's what you're familiar with seeing. So for number 6, you're going to decide what is the slope, what is the y-intercept, and then explain what does each represent. Number 6, Abby has a lemonade stand and we're using this equation right here, y equals 3x. That's our equation. Now our directions say that we need to graph the situation and then we also have to answer what slope represents. So first let's graph it. To be able to graph it, I need to know what my slope is. Well, my slope is 3. I also need to know what the y-intercept is. Well, there is not a y-intercept out there, so that means our y-intercept is 0. Because if I added out a plus 0, right here's our y-intercept. So we didn't have to add it out there since it's 0. So b equals 0. Now, graphing it. Beginning at the y-intercept, we start at 0. And then our slope, 3 equals 3 over 1. So up 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. Rise 3, run 1. Now, what does the slope represent? So slope, our m is 3. So what does that mean? That means, so when we look at our graph, we have the money spent and we have the number of lemonades ordered. So that means each lemonade costs $3. Looking at number 7, you're going to finish up number 7 on your own, but let's look at our graph. When we look at our graph, there's something that I noticed. We have time on our horizontal axis, and it's counting even, 2, 4, 6, 8, counting even by even numbers all the way up. Distance traveled, okay, is on our y-axis. Well, there's nothing labeled on our y-axis. We're going to go ahead and label it. It should be labeled counting up by 2s also. So using that information, then you're going to go ahead and figure out. It says which of the following best represents the number of feet per second. So if we're talking feet per second, we're really talking the slope, okay, or the rate of change. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the slope, and it will either be A, B, C, or D.